So, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris and I'm a Gorilla in the Wrist. Um, in every AliExpress recommendation video I've ever done, I've always included this watch, the Pagani PD 1644. Um, but it occurs to me that I've never actually done a review of it. Um, and the question I guess we've got to be asking is, why does it keep coming up time after time after time? Why do I keep recommending it time after time after time? Let's get into it. So let's start just by doing a quick run around the watch. So what we have is, I'm not going to say what it looks like, you all know what it looks like. It's 39 to 40 millimeters across the dial. It's a chronograph, and therefore what looks like a very large second hand, of course, is the chrono second hand. The dial is a lovely matte black with silver indices all the way around. There's a few of the shortened ones as a consequence of the subdials. There's three subdials on this one, so at the 3 o'clock, we have the 24-hour indicator. 6 o'clock is the small ticking seconds hand. And at 9 o'clock, we have the chronometer minute counter, which takes it all the way up to 60. The subdials themselves, and it's hard to capture on this, I'll try and stick a photo on, but the subdials themselves are textured with concentric circles, a bit like a vinyl record. Which is very subtle and quite hard to see, but again, I think is really good. This watch comes with the Seiko VK68 or possibly VD78. There's a minute track all the way around the dial, and the bezel is black ceramic with a tachograph and is fixed, so it doesn't move. And then the watch itself is fairly thin at about 12 millimeters, and my one came on a nice Jubilee bracelet with a decent deployed clasp on it as well. I'm so good at doing this on camera. But an attempt at a glide lock style clasp. Doesn't have the on the fly adjustment, this one, unfortunately. Um, but yes, that's the quick run around the watch. Next up, we're going to get into the detailed specifications for it. So we're going to very quickly run through the basic specs. So the dial width on this watch is 40 millimeters. It has a decent compact lug-to-lug of 48, and therefore wears really well. The lug width is the good standard 20 millimeters, so you'll have plenty of straps for this. And because of the mecha quartz movement, it's only 12.5 millimeters thick. The crystal is a nice sapphire, flat sapphire crystal. It does have water resistance of 100 meters. And the movement inside it is the very reliable Seiko VK67, and it weighs in at a measly 134 grams. Again, something else that makes it immensely wearable. So let's do the Gorilla gripes for this watch, and it's not a particularly extensive list, to be honest. Before I get into that, I hope you like my Gorillas in the Wrist mug. That was a Christmas present from my good wife, who got somebody to design that from scratch. I think it's pretty good, but that's me. Anyway, back to the watch. So in terms of the Gorilla gripes on it, I think what I would say is that this is one of those watches where you pay such a pittance for it, and it is a complete spec monster. It's remarkable what this watch does have. At some point, that was going to stretch a little bit thin, and I suspect the watch's real weak point is the bracelet and the clasp. So I quite like this particular Jubilee bracelet, but I would have to admit that it's a bit jangly. I mean, I mean, in terms of spec, again, it is solid end links, and the clasp actually, I mean, functionally works fine. It's not as good as some of the other attempts, and it does, believe it or not, even have a diver's extension on it. Um, but it's not brilliant. I think one of the things I would think about long term, if you're going to get this, is whether or not you're better off getting a slightly different clasp for it. A second to muck that up there. There we go. I would do that. And actually, it's a 20 millimeters lug width. Therefore, you're probably likely to have plenty of other straps that this would go on. And I would consider putting on a rubber. I would also consider putting on leather. I think it's just a really nice watch. But I would entirely accept that bracelet and the clasp um, aren't brilliant. Um, but that's about it, really. I don't think it has any weaknesses other than that. It's not a mechanical watch, but we all need a quartz watch in our collection, and this is a mecha quartz movement, and therefore, whilst it may not be automatic, it pretty much looks like it is. So I think a lot of good stuff that we're going to get into next. So let's talk about the greats, the things that I really like about this watch. I think I would start off with the fact that I think it does follow that classic 40-20 formula that size-wise works really, really well. Um, I think it's a particularly elegant go at this particular homage. Clearly, there's no credit for the design to Picard design, but actually, what they've done here is of a very high standard. It comes with a very nice flat sapphire crystal. I'm not convinced there's any anti-reflective coating on that at all because it does glint in the light somewhat. But you know what? There's no point at which, even in bright sunshine, you can't read the time. So I think that's remarkable. It's got 100 meters of water resistance, so you're comfortably going to be wearing this in most of your social life without a problem. This is going in the pool without a problem. The crown is screwed down, the case back is screwed down, and even the chrono pushers screw down as well, just to make absolutely certain that there is no water getting in there. Um, which again I think is remarkable. It's got a reliable mecha quartz movement in it. You're only going to have to stick a battery in this every 2 to 3 years. So this works well as a just pick it up and go watch. Very positive. Um, and I think the dial is just sensational. I really do think they've done a banging job on it. It comes in many, many different colours, and we'll pop them up so you can see those as well. But I think if you're picking one of the colours, I think the black is the classic. The white is very nice as well. Um, but this is just very simplistic, but a very stylish, very easy to go, very easygoing watch. So I think that's great. And obviously, one of the biggest positives about this is just price. So I think when I bought this one, I paid about £55 for it. You can pay around 50. It's still to be found £50. It's still to be found around those price levels. So we'll stick the currency converters up there so you can see what it is in other countries. But I think for £50, I struggle to think of what you would get better than this. It is a classic looking watch. To be honest, on wrist, it looks 10 times that price. It is genuinely fantastic on the wrist. So let's just give it a go and prove that fact. So there we have it. It just looks good. I've worn this one in business meetings. It sort of holds its own really. It's a good sports style watch as well. Good leisure time watch. You could pretty much use this for anything. But it is a great looking watch and works well on the wrist. So let's quickly sum this one up because I think this is quite straightforward. I think. Um, so I started by posing the question, why is it every time I do an AliExpress video, it almost doesn't matter what time of the year it is, I always recommend this watch. And I think the answer to that is fairly straightforward and fairly simple. The answer I always recommend it is that it's a fantastic watch at a price that you wouldn't get much else of quality at this sort of price. I did do an unboxing recently of another PD 1705 or 1709, which was the sort of foam meteorite dial dress watch that was around £42. And one of my viewers did comment, well, this one would give it a run for its money, and I think he's absolutely right. In fact, I think this watch gives almost any other watch a run for its money. It's not perfect, but you can make a few modifications and changes yourself, like slinging it onto a different bracelet, or putting it on a leather strap, or any of those things, which just add to the look. Um, but I keep recommending it because it's great. It's a fantastic watch, and keep your eyes open because in the next one I'll be recommending it again. I like it a great deal. I think there is so much to be said for this watch. Um, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you agree. I hope you like it too. If you didn't, or if you have a different idea, or you can think of a better watch at £50 that isn't the one that I've already mentioned, then please let me know. If you didn't enjoy the video, please say what you'd like to see instead. I enjoyed making this one, and this is a watch that gives me a great deal of pleasure. I hope it gave you some pleasure as well. So all that's really left is to say the sun's out. Have a fantastic weekend, and hopefully we'll see you back soon. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.